All right. Welcome, everybody. Excited to be here. Hopefully, you can all see my screen. I want to introduce myself and Steve. So, I am Will Ominski. I'm the Vice President of MSP Sales here at Nerdio, and I'm joined by Steve. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Steve Noel, VP of Microsoft Sales and Development at IT Cloud.
Fantastic. So today we're going to talk about building a successful cloud MSP with Nerdio and what that can mean for your managed service provider. So before we begin, we want to discuss just briefly an exclusive offer that Nerdio is running with IT Cloud for their partners. So this is a really great offer for anybody who might be interested, either now or following this webinar, to be able to test out and use all of the benefits within Nerdio. So we are offering some free internal use licenses. So you can use the product for free to test out our Intune management, our Microsoft Cloud management, or Azure or Windows 365 even. We are also offering free Go Live engineering. Now, Nerdio Go Live engineers, what they do is they help MSPs bring their first couple customers into the cloud. So we make it so you can have a very quick and risk-free experience when bringing new customers and kind of figuring out this whole new cloud ecosystem. We're also offering you free 30 days of the product to use in managing those customers in an ongoing basis. And we're going to be doing a few workshops in Toronto and Vancouver, where Nerdio will pick up the bill for your hotel, as well as all of the training. And that way you can have much more time to get hands-on and understanding a full sales and operational process for explaining to your customers and building proposals and pricing practices, as well as the entire technical process. So you actually get hands-on keyboard. Your team will be building out virtual desktops. They will be building out policies and Entra ID and installing applications. So a great way to really fast track your Microsoft Cloud business, regardless of where your existing experience is today. All right, so I always like to start these conversations with kind of taking a look at Microsoft, right? Us as MSPs, a lot of our businesses are already centered support Windows Desktop, Windows Server. Our customers predominantly use Microsoft 365 for their productivity applications like Outlook and PowerPoint and Excel and a whole bunch of other features that Microsoft releases and has available for the small to medium size customers we support. And whether we like it or not, we're kind of tied to Microsoft because we need to support the products that our customers demand to use to run their businesses. So what Satya, the CEO of Microsoft, is saying here is, as technology providers, we need to be able to reinvent ourselves. Our industry, it really doesn't respect that tradition, doing things the way we always have just because that's the way we do things, right? What it really respects is innovation. Those managed service providers, those technology companies that are innovating and looking to the next thing that can solve real life critical business challenges, those are the ones who are going to excel the most. Those are the ones that have the best businesses. Those are the ones who make the most money. And those are the ones that have the happiest customers in most cases. Now, that being said, it's when I talk to MSPs, I say, well, okay, that's what Microsoft says. Well, tell me what you define as success for your individual managed service provider. And one of the first things that I hear is, Will, we want to grow our business, right? That's success for us. We want to be able to grow and achieve our growth goals. The next thing that I hear is, well, growing isn't good enough, right? We have to be able to grow and make as much money as possible. We need to maximize those margins. If I'm growing my business and selling a lot to my customers, but I'm not profitable, that doesn't really do too much for me. So I need to be able to protect those margins so I can maybe retire early, or I can pay my staff, and I can invest more into my business and that growth. And then lastly, I hear maybe more frequently now than ever that I define success as an MSP by increasing our knowledge. And when I dig into that response from people, it's, well, when I go meet with a prospect or I go have an engineer go service or assist an existing customer, I want them to be viewed as the smartest and best, most competent partner, technology provider that they've ever worked with. I want my team to be able to have the answers and provide intelligent guidance to all of my customers and prospects that will allow me to achieve the other goals. Now, all of those things are easier said than done. MSPs have so many challenges that all of you, I'm sure, are very, very aware of and deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? This is not an easy job or industry to be in. One of the things that I hear in terms of challenges is our market and technology has been moving so fast and even faster if you look at the past couple of years. Things like the work from home, which COVID really kind of pushed people to, forced technology to adapt even faster. You have all of these bad actors and security threats and hacks that are happening in the world faster than ever because AI and things like that are making it easier for people to maybe hack into a network or cause destruction, right? It's very hard for us as an MSP to be able to keep up with all of this rapid market evolution, especially if you think back to that quote that I mentioned from Satya, right? We need to innovate. We kind of know we need to innovate and reinvent ourselves and look at what the future might hold in current technologies, but it's very hard with everything changing so quickly. And what this kind of leads to is MSPs are fighting this inertia. You have this inertia pushing you to keep doing things the way that you always have because it's so difficult to change. And when you do change, there's risk. Why? Because there's no map for us MSPs. There's nobody out there telling us this is how you do it. If we are running a financial business doing tax returns or business planning or HR benefits, there's a lot of maps out there, I think, for many other industries, right? But for us, there's no map. So we're fighting this inertia. If I want to protect my margins, if I want to grow my business, I know how to do that selling servers and installing servers on-prem for my customers. I've been doing that for years. Getting them to move to the cloud and get a cloud server instead of an on-prem server is much more difficult in terms of growing my business and protecting my margins and there not being a map. So I'm just going to keep doing things the way I always have because there's less ultimate risk for my business if I do what I know versus trying to reinvent myself. And that's, really where we hear MSPs are overwhelmed with this cloud management. We want to do it. We want to move to the cloud. We see some of the benefits of it, but it's too complex. It's too hard for my existing teams who have been managing or implementing on-premise solutions for years to be able to rapidly be able to implement and manage these cloud technologies from Microsoft. Things like Entra ID or Defender, or some of the new ways that Microsoft is allowing people to install applications without some third-party agent, or even infrastructure-based technologies like Azure Virtual Desktop. Why would I do that? I've been selling terminal services or Citrix for years, right? And the other thing is there's too many portals. Us as MSPs, because there's no map, what do? Well, we go and try and buy all these different products off the shelf to be able to solve the challenges that we need to try and adapt as much as we can with this rapid market evolution. And our goal here at Nerdio is to make the cloud management, all of these challenges I've just talked about, very simple and automated. So you can reduce the amount of risk in your MSP and be able to achieve the goals that you want to and not have to fight that inertia. You can embrace that. You can embrace the cloud and you can know there's very little risk for your business. You're going to be able to grow your business. You're going to be able to maximize your margins, and you and your team are going to be able to be the most knowledgeable people when you go out and meet with prospects or existing customers. And that's where our product comes in. It's called Nerdio Manager for MSP. And we focus on these 4 pillars within our product. So the first one that we focus on is pricing, because I've worked at an MSP. You need to be able to go and price out what this will look like and deliver a very comprehensive proposal with cost to your customer if they were to make this cloud move, maybe move a server into Azure, maybe use some virtual desktops, maybe get rid of a domain controller and use Entra ID for their policy, right? All of these components. And if any of you have been inside of the Azure calculator, you know how difficult and time consuming and uncertain that tool might make it seem. Well, Nerdio, our tool, allows you to very quickly and easily price out a complete environment, so you know exactly what it's going to cost to move your customer to the cloud. Next, we focus on deployment. You go and deploy that customer into Azure. Well, that takes a lot of work and knowledge for your team. Nerdio automates these deployments. We can provision a brand new infrastructure-based environment in about an hour. We can deploy a whole set of policies and baselines for Entra and for Defender in a couple of minutes. In addition, Nerdio has taken a very native Microsoft approach. So what that means is you can link Nerdio into your customer's existing tenants and subscriptions for Azure. So you don't need to go and rebuild everything from scratch because you're using this software tool. We can link into what they have, build on top of it, and manage on top of it. And that's the next box that we focus on, is the ongoing management and support. Too often, we see managed service providers with only 1 or 2 Azure or Intune or Microsoft Cloud experts. And that's a bottleneck for an MSP. In our view of the world, every employee at the MSP should be able to manage and support your customers when they call in and say, I'm having a problem or I need help. And so we take all of those common tasks that need to be completed inside of Azure or Intune or 365, and we make them 3 clicks or less. So very, very simple and intuitive and easy for your tier 1 techs or even a new employee who just graduated university to be able to support your customers. And lastly, we've built out optimizations. We want your customers to have the best performance and experience possible, because that means reduced tickets for you and happier customers. That's a great thing. We also want to ensure you are not overpaying for anything in Microsoft. So we built out optimizations that hit those 2 key points to ensure your customers have the greatest experience, and you have all of these so you can close more business and you can protect those margins and maximize them. We see a lot of MSPs who have looked at the cloud or have even started using the cloud, and they say there's some frustrations with that, right? Growing their revenue. They say, well, I have a couple customers that are willing to pay for this stuff, but most of my customers, they can't afford this cloud move. It's too expensive. Our labor is too expensive to be able to support this. There's operational inefficiencies when we start moving to the cloud and supporting the cloud from as an MSP. We have an engineer that went and changed a policy, and now my customer's not compliant, and nobody else knew about it. We have an engineer who added some more RAM to a VM, and we got a bill and didn't realize for a couple months later that we're now not profitable because the increased costs. And we're trying to use these legacy third-party tools to manage these modern cloud solutions. Well, with Nerdio, we can give you that repeatable modern cloud MSP business model where you go out and qualify your leads and prospects like you always have. You can use the Nerdio tool to price and package these opportunities very quickly and easily, so you can go and get that very quick yes or no from your customer if it makes sense for them. If they say yes, well, Nerdio can automatically provision these environments very, very quickly, reducing your risk and your labor costs to get them stood up and migrated over. Then Nerdio can manage and optimize these environments in an ongoing basis, and then you can repeat that cycle. This will ultimately not only reduce your business risk, but it will reduce your churn or loss of customers, reduce your tickets, and reduce your overall costs, which will result in increased margins and happier customers. I hear all the time, Will, that sounds okay, but again, I've looked at this stuff before. Azure's really expensive, right? It's too expensive for me to be able to do. And I'm right there with you. So if you go into the Azure calculator or you run Azure and you are not optimizing your costs, then it can be exceptionally expensive. But when you use Nerdio and follow our prescriptive guidance that we've been doing for many years with thousands of MSPs all over the world, we can typically save you between 65 and 75% on the raw Azure charges, compute and storage, right? Those are what make up the significant portion of your customer's environment when you move infrastructure specifically into the cloud. This is a typical environment, moving some servers, maybe virtual desktops, maybe not. If you look at the breakdown, 70% of a typical cost comes from the compute, the RAM and the CPU, the reason why they're going to Azure. Then you have about just over 20% that comes from storage. That would be your disks as well as FS Logics if you're using that, or Azure Files if you're using that. So this makes up the huge part of your environment. Networking and some of those other cells and costs like storage operations and things like that are less than 10%. So when we first started our company, we said, let's focus on the big buckets. Let's focus on compute and storage and how can we save people costs with those really big expensive items in Azure. And here's an example of what we did with a real life customer. This was not a large customer. They were 32 users. This was a virtual desktop based environment that also had servers in it. They were pretty heavy users. They and they worked about 50 hours a week, and they were based in Texas, so South Central U.S. The unoptimized costs running these workloads and not trying to scale down and save some money cost $882 a month or $33 per user per month. And what this kind of leads to is when we introduced Nerdio's VM power management, what this feature does is it looks at when your customers need to work, and it ensures you have the compute needed to support their workload while they're working. But what it also does is it watches the users. And when they sign out at the end of the day, for example, it says, well, why are we of this inertia CPU right now? Nobody's using this. It's the nighttime. It's the weekend. People are out enjoying their lives. Let's stop the bill. So Nerdio pushing you to keep doing and deallocates your resources so you're not paying for them. Then we introduced just-in-time provisioning. We can save even more money by provisioning machines only when they're needed instead of turning them on and powering them off, and that'll save a little bit more. Next, we move over to storage. We said, well, if we have an operating system disk, for example, that is on premium SSD while it's running, do we really care about the performance of this when the machine is powered off? Who cares how fast the storage is when nobody's using it? So we said, well, what if we can change the disk down to a spinning disk that's very inexpensive when nobody's using it? And that's what we did. Next, we shrunk their OS disks down to less storage instead of running on the standard 128 gig. And then we also, in this example, we shrunk their user profile storage in Azure Files by 50%. And we can monitor that on a 5-minute increments to expand it only when it's needed. So ultimately, for this customer, we drove the cost from $33 per user per month all the way down to $10.60 per user per month, saving this example 68% off of what they were paying. This is all margin back into the MSP's pocket. This is potentially sharing some of those savings with your customer so you can go out and close more opportunities and make them happier. Now, again, I like talking about margin when I talk to MSPs because none of us are out here doing this for free. And I hear all the time that, well, that's pretty great, but Azure's kind of unpredictable, right? We've seen it before. You get billed for what you actually consume inside of Azure. Well, if you follow our guidance for margin optimization, we can help you make higher margins than selling hardware. When I was at my MSP, we were happy to make 10 or 15% selling hardware. And that's one time. That one time sale you do every 3 or 5 years. When moving to Azure, our partners are making a minimum of 35% margin on a monthly recurring basis. On average, our partners are making closer to 40 or even 50% margins, again, on a monthly recurring basis. So, how do we do this? Well, we implement the margin optimization strategies that I just showed and a few others that I wouldn't have time to show here. And again, this is a real life example of a customer. This customer was running QuickBooks, a very common accounting application that I'm sure many of you support today with your existing customers, on-prem. And they moved the customer to the cloud, and it was costing the MSP $56 US per user per month to deliver this out of Azure. Now, when we implemented our margin optimization strategies, we were able to take that exact same environment without sacrificing the productivity and the experience for the end user and reduce the cost to $31 per user per month and installing servers inside of your pocket. So many MSPs go out there and they find a QuickBooks hoster because there's not enough margin doing it the unoptimized way. And so what does that mean? You're not growing your business. It means you're not capturing that revenue. It means you're simply a vendor manager for your customers. You don't have the control that you probably want. With Nerdio, you can deliver these same workloads that these massive hosters are doing, and you can get the cost so low that it makes it worthwhile for you. These hosters, they charge typically somewhere around 75 or more per user per month. Sometimes you can find a really cheap one that might be $50 or $60, something like that, US. But if you can get that cost down to $30 per user, again, it can be very lucrative for you and you're worth your while, even for a small 5-user environment. Next, I have an example here that we did for a much larger and more complicated environment. This was over 100 users with AutoCAD. They were needed GPU cards inside of Azure. Now, I think $75, not too bad per user per month to be able to deliver virtual desktops and servers and storage and backup and 365 licensing, all of that type of stuff. But with Nerdio, we could reduce the cost to $45 per user per month. Again, massive savings back in your pocket. This is how you're going to maintain your margins. And even with the cost of paying for a Nerdio license to do all of this stuff, you are still more profitable than you would be without using our product. And we're much more than just the Azure savings, which I've been focusing on a little bit here for the past few minutes. I think one of the huge values in this is also the labor and the knowledge savings. And I do see this in the chat. Those dollar amounts were in US dollars that I was presenting. Our pricing tool does support multiple currencies. So if you're interested, we certainly could get on a call at some point and walk through the pricing in your currency. Or if you go to our website, getnerdio.com, there is a button in the top middle towards the right that it says free tools. You can click that and you can get to our pricing calculator right on our website. So with this, we can also save you a significant amount of labor hours as well as the knowledge required. So for anybody in MSP leadership on this call or in MSP kind of tech support, these should really resonate with you. You don't want to have to invent myself. Go to multiple portals and spend hours waiting for all the different things you have to do to complete those common tasks that you do every single month. Updating images, updating applications, changing policies, doing user management, right? Setting up FS logics or managing that if you're talking AVD. We can automate these tasks so they take much less time. What this means for leadership is you can support more customers with less staff. That means everybody is more profitable, and potentially you can have better bonuses. The other thing is the knowledge side, right? You don't need to have that deep, advanced Azure knowledge. So now everybody in your team can support these customers. That also means for leadership that if that advanced Azure resource were to leave your business, you are not at risk with all of your customers. You can now congratulate them that they got another job that is maybe better for their professional development, and you can say our business is not going to struggle because I have other techs in here who can support our customers at the same level you were able to. Now, I talked earlier about keeping up, with the evolution of cloud and all of these great features, right? It can be very difficult. And if you don't stay up with this, right, you can have uninformed business decisions. You can have lack of innovation. You can increase the amount of risk at your MSP. And so Nerdio arms you with so many resources outside of our product and inside of our product. So you don't have to have that type of risk. Number one, I talked about this at the very beginning. We have lots of learning opportunities for all of you. And almost all of them are free and at no cost. You don't even have to be a Nerdio partner. We make much of this available to the entire MSP community, whether you're buying Nerdio or not. So we have these in-person and virtual options for years to be able to 65, Intune, and Azure. We have a huge team here at Nerdio who will help you. We will get on individual calls and talk through your specific scenarios to help you price and architect what it would look like to bring this customer with this type of environment into the cloud. We'll answer all of your questions. We'll make sure you are completely equipped to have those conversations with your customers. We'll give you free licenses, as I talked about with the offer at the beginning, so you can test this out. So you can do proof of concepts. So you can feel really solid in your team's ability to deliver this. And then lastly, you have this free Nerdio Go Live engineering offer where we will sit with you on a screen share and we will help you deploy these customers into Azure. We also have something that I think is very interesting, and I don't know of any other company in the world that offers this. It's called a Nerdio Azure Business Review. What we do on these Azure business reviews is we will review an existing Azure customer. This could be one you're managing with Nerdio after you've deployed them, or it could be a customer that you're not currently managing with Nerdio. And we will walk through that environment, how it is set up, and we will help you optimize it so you can lower costs and you can increase your end user's experience. I don't run these anymore, but I sat in on one that one of my sales engineers was running earlier this week. In that call, he saved the MSP $4,300 per month in Azure spend. Now, I can't promise those savings every single time we do one, but just about every single time we do an Azure business review, we find areas where we can save you money and increase performance and experience for your end customers. So that is something we would be happy to get on a call with you, and run through that. And again, there is no cost for us to do that Azure business review. Next, we have our training camps. This is part of the offer that we're making to everybody. We are running these all over the world. So if you can't make one of the ones in Vancouver or in Toronto, we have many other locations, Chicago, maybe not too far, and all over the US as well as abroad. We're doing one in Dublin, for example. We're doing one in Berlin and Australia, so all over the world. But these training camps, these are a big passion for me personally, because the feedback that we get from MSPs is just phenomenal. You show up at one of these training camps. First of all, there's no cost. Nerdio pays for your hotel. We provide food. We have a pretty fun happy hour as well. But you get to get hands-on. We talk through how to run a sales meeting specifically for cloud. We talk about how to use the cost calculator to properly price out these environments. We talk about how to deliver your proposal and put together a proposal. How should I package and sell Microsoft Azure and Intune? We talk about common objections that customers give you and how to be able to overcome them. That's all day one. And then on day two, you have your laptops open and you are in real time building these environments. You're building servers, you're building policies in Entra, you are building Defender, and you are destroying things. And you really get hands on, and it gives your team this very great level of confidence with being able to go out and manage and support your customers. So we'd love to see you there. And again, we have many, many dates, and the QR code is on there. And I'm sure we'll send this out afterwards where you can go on the website and be able to register if you are interested. The one other thing that I'll say about this is everything that we teach you in these training camps is true for Azure and Microsoft, even if you don't use Nerdio. This is not a sales training, right? We're not training you to go sell and buy Nerdio. We are actually training you on Microsoft Azure and Microsoft Intune and modern work. So if you ultimately decide not to work with Nerdio, it will not be a waste of your time. You will walk away with a lot of great knowledge that you can apply to your Microsoft cloud practice. So I've talked a lot about, what overall how we can help, some specific scenarios. I want to get a little bit deeper in our product, so you have a good understanding of what we actually do. Now, if you've ever looked at Nerdio or explored Nerdio in the past, you probably know we are the Azure infrastructure experts. That's really where our roots came from. And that's because Nerdio was born out of a managed service provider in Chicago who focused on delivering cloud for all of our customers, cloud infrastructure. So that's where we started. But over time, we've heard from MSPs that you've helped us so much with Microsoft infrastructure in Azure. We're starting to do more and more with the modern work side, with Intune, with Identity, with Defender, with 365. And we want to have assistance and a software tool that can manage all of this. And you seem like a logical choice. So about 2 years ago, we started releasing features to support non-Azure infrastructure components of Microsoft. And today, we support all of these 5 boxes I have at the top. So if you have customers that don't need infrastructure in Azure, we can help you with supporting their physical machines and physical endpoints with Microsoft Intune. We can support you with removing those domain controllers and being able to support their identity and Entra ID. We can help with 365. You can do license assignments. You can reset passwords, right? All of those basic kind of user things. And then we also have recently introduced Defender. So we have Defender management. You can manage policies in Defender. And I'm talking about Defender for Endpoint, which comes with your 365 Business Premium license. That is all of the features that we're trying to unlock, because the feedback we hear from MSPs is, well, Business Premium is the minimum license I try to sell to my customers. So we want you to be able to unlock, all of the features that are included with that. Now, we do this in a multi and cross-tenant approach. So what I mean by that is you can create your Defender policies, for example, and you can make them perfect, exactly how you want. And then you can click a single button and you can push out those Defender policies to all of your customers. And if you want to change a policy, you do not need to go in and touch each individual customer. You change it in one place and it will push out to all of your customers. We can do things like application management. You can say, well, all of my customers use Adobe Reader. I want them all to always be on the latest version of Adobe Reader on their laptops. You set that up in Nerdio at the global level, and it will automatically push out to every single customer every time that application gets automatically updated by the software vendor itself. And there is no agent required to do any of this. So we're protecting your security by removing the amount of agents that you need to support them. Let's dive deeper a little bit into these 4 pillars I talked about earlier. Um, this video is kind of a decent explainer, but feel free to go to the website. I know the link was dropped in the chat, but you can very easily come into our cost calculator and price this out. This is an MSP-friendly format. Right now, it just grabbed all of the latest pricing information from the Azure calculator. We are hooked up to it live. You'll choose your region, your currency, and then you'll go through and you'll say, I want to provision a server. I want to price out virtual desktops or whatever it might be, some VPNs. And at the end of the day, you will have a complete quote. Now, the great thing about this complete quote is when you use it and present it to your customer, if they sign off on it, this is also your map. Remember how I said before there's no map for MSPs? Well, this is your map on exactly what you're going to build inside of Azure for your customers to ensure your margins and your pricing is protected. So when you do that, you'll go into our deployment wizard. You'll link Nerdio into your customer's tenant and subscription, and then you'll tell us what to build. Are we going to do virtual desktops? Are we going to manage Intune only, maybe? We're going to build it inside of the customer's subscription and tenant. We're going to be able to either link into existing resources like networks or resource groups, or in this case, I'm building a brand new network inside of Azure. Then the wizard, depending on what you've selected, will create it automatically for you, just that easily. And next, it will go ahead and build any storage or finalize it. And you can see all of the logging. We are very transparent about everything that we are building inside of Azure. So if there are any errors, you can go ahead and remediate that. So very, very quick and easy process. If everything's brand new, again, it maybe takes an hour. I sped up this video, but that customer is now provisioned. And then next, you can do the ongoing management and support. You can find a user, reset their password, something really basic, or you can do something much more advanced, like manage their Intune policies or update autopilot, or you could update their network settings or DNS, or be able to assign a user to a virtual desktop so they can log in and work and get whatever they need. So all of these things are very, very simple point and click actions within our portal. And this is what I mean when I was talking earlier about enabling every single employee at your MSP to be able to support your customers, right? All of this stuff is in a single portal. And you're not having to hop around between multiple Microsoft portals with multiple identities or credentials to be able to log in. This will reduce your risk greatly. And then lastly, we have our optimize. This is where we can auto scale and turn on or off machines when needed. We can flip the disk, and we have lots of different parameters that you can set in here. Because remember, the goal is to not just save money and protect your margins, it is also to ensure that your customers don't feel pain, that they have the best experience possible. You don't want everybody to leave for lunch and us turn off every single machine, and then they come back an hour later and nobody can work because you're waiting for a machine to power on, because your customer would probably be pretty unhappy. And in that case, you may be saved $1, right? Not worth it for the saving. So we can walk that tightrope and balance act to make sure that your customers have the best experience. At the end of the day, Nerdio can help you manage your entire Microsoft ecosystem. We give you that friendly MSP multi-tenant approach. We can help you with things like applications that could be on physical devices. They could even be on tablets or phones as well, mobile devices we support. You can support all of those policies and baselines for both Entra ID as well as Defender. We have a feature that will be releasing very soon, probably in the next 30 days, called Console Connect. This is our remote control feature. So we are giving people remote control bundled in with our licenses. And then we also do support desktops and servers. And those desktops could be in the cloud or they could be on premise. So lots of options depending on what your customers or your business needs. At the end of the day, our goal is to make it very easy to manage this Microsoft Cloud ecosystem. One other thing I'll mention about our development, if you ever do go into our knowledge base, which you can, it's publicly accessible, we develop our product very, very quickly. We do a major release every 6 weeks. So every 6 weeks, we have a lot of new features that are coming out. And those features are ones that are requested by our partners. We have a way for all of you to request features from us. And we actually look at them and we will put them on our product roadmap and develop them. So all of our existing MSPs have actual decision-making process within our product roadmap. Oh, all right. So real quickly, we have a few minutes left here. I want to just show you what the portal looks like. As you can see, it is very simple, very intuitive. I'm going to give you a high level tour here. This is my MSP layer. So right here, I can see all of my customers I have connected. I can see information about them. How many Intune users am I managing? Do they have virtual desktops? Where's their subscription? All of that fun stuff. And then I have my global settings. So this is where I can go and create things like my solution baselines for Intune. I can go ahead and assign these to these different customers. And I can either enforce all of these policies or I can just report on them. I don't necessarily want to force these policies upon this customer, but I want to know, are they within compliance? So I can come back to them and make recommendations. And there's a lot of configuration options that you can do in here. Windows settings, enrollments, all of that. Again, same thing for Defender. I can also, under policy management, build policy baselines. These are groupings of individual policies. So I can say for my lawyer offices or my CIS policies, and I can group a whole bunch of policies together, and I can again choose to enforce them or just report on them, either individually or as a whole. So we have access to all of the different policies here. But the goal here is you'll create this baseline, maybe for HIPAA in this example, and I can assign them to all of my customers. So when I need to change the way that I am doing security for this group of customers, I change the policies in one place and they will automatically push out to all of my customers. This will drastically reduce your labor time in terms of managing them. The other thing is when you bring on a brand new customer, you don't have to go manually configure them all. You can just click a button and assign these policies or these baselines to that customer. So your provisioning time to bring somebody into Entra ID and get rid of that domain controller is almost zero. I can also go into a specific customer. And as I kind of showed in that in the PowerPoint with that little video demo, I can go manage, any of the things that I need to in here. Policies, applications, maybe it's something as simple as just some collection of servers that they have. I'm able to do things like buy or purchase reservations. I can configure hybrid benefit. You can report on all of this. You can notify people about this. And one other thing that I really, really like about this is we have something that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. If I go back to workflows, I can protect your entire business because what we've done is we've set up something called categories, which you can customize, or you can take ours out of the box. Of course, this is going to take a minute to load because I'm on a live demo here. There we go. And you might be saying, well, I don't really want my level one techs touching this stuff because they could break something, right? They could get into trouble. And Will, I know you said they don't need as much knowledge to be able to do this, but there's still some risk. So workflows is how we protect you. You can say if a technician comes in here and does anything destructive, which would be any of these items that we've defined right here, it does not make the change. What it does is it sends a notification to their manager to be able to approve or deny the action. So now you can have every person in your company clicking buttons and making changes in here, and things that would change the cost or destroy something or maybe a setting change, whatever it is. You can have management oversight on that. So it's not happening in a bubble and nobody else knows about it. So hopefully that was useful for a quick high level demo. At the end of the day, I usually get asked about our pricing. Our pricing is based on named users, and you'll have two different types of named users depending on what you're doing. You'll have named virtual desktop users if you're doing AVD, or you'll have non-AVD users where you're managing Intune and their physical devices and maybe some servers that are in Azure. So we start at $12 US per named user per month for AVD and $3 US per Intune user per month. We have volume discounts available, and we look at volume across your entire MSP. So as you do more with us and become more integrated as a partner and manage more customers of yours with Nerdio, your price per user will decrease and go down. Again, we have this offer. Steve, I don't know if you want to add anything or talk through this offer at all. I'll give you an opportunity here.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to make sure, and I put in the link there. This is an exclusive opportunity. I think it goes far beyond, uh, just the training aspects. But I know that some of you have, you know, how can I say this? You have challenges in terms of managing and administrating um, the Azure Virtual Desktop, and you want to pursue and go a lot further with that. And the way that when I spoke to Will about it is, even if you don't decide necessarily that Nerdio is right for you, but take advantage of the training, take advantage of the NFR licenses to actually understand and see what this tool has for you. We already have over a dozen partners that have registered. Even if you can't make it to the workshop, take advantage of this offer. And I think that it's a great solution. I've heard tremendous things about it. As a matter of fact, even though I've heard about the Nerdio solution, it was mostly people inside of our partners that talked to us about it and say, "Hey, we really need to partner with them." And I'm so happy that myself, Will, and the team were able to connect. So yeah, take advantage of that. Even if you were not able to make it on the 26th or the 27th, we're actually planning on doing something and giving online training. Sylvain, I think, which is on the call, already talked about giving the training to partners themselves. You know that we've got amazing support by Nerdio, but our team also is going to get qualified to be able to help you and make sure that you get swift help when you're trying to deploy these services to your customers. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it. I see some comments in the chat. Absolutely, we can help you with setting up your internal use licenses. And everything that I mentioned here in terms of the assistance from Nerdio will be included for the internal use licenses. So we can assign you a go live engineer. We can help you scope out exactly what you want to do. You could run this either in a trial or you could run it and use those licenses for production for your own MSP's internal environment. So we'd love to work with you. Really appreciate everybody joining this session. We would love and really appreciate if you would fill out this survey as well, just to give us feedback on this, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see more of. We really rely on a lot of feedback to make sure we're bringing very valuable content and information to you. So I'll leave
Well,
that up. Yeah, go ahead,
thank
Steve.
you. Yeah, well, thank you, and have a nice afternoon. And looking forward to talking to you soon at the next webinar. And if you have any additional questions, you can always reach out to us at partners@itcloud.ca. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.